They deleted the posts. All of them. Quietly. In the middle of the night. And nobody asked the real question. Why now? See, 50 Cent doesn't delete anything. Ever. That man has made an entire career out of leaving the receipts up for the world to see. He's the type to post something, go to sleep, wake up, and post it again just in case you missed it the first time. So when every single post targeting T.I. and his family suddenly vanished from his page, baby, that wasn't a retreat. That was the calm before the final play. And what came next? What came next shook the entire Harris family to their core and exposed a truth that nobody in Atlanta wanted to admit out loud. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Way ahead. Because to understand what just happened, what's still happening, and what's about to happen, you need to understand the full picture. And I promise you, nobody has laid this out the way we're about to. Not like this. Not with what we know now. So buckle up. Because this story isn't about one arrest. It's not about one mugshot. It's not even about one kid going down the wrong path. This is about an entire empire built on a lie, a family that performed perfection on camera while everything crumbled behind closed doors, and one man, Curtis James Jackson III, better known as 50 Cent, who saw through all of it years before anyone else did. And when he finally made his move, nobody was ready. Let me take you back to a gas station in Dawoodi, Georgia. October 2024. Monday night. The kind of night where nothing's supposed to happen. Quiet suburb. Nice cars. People filling up their tanks. Grabbing snacks. Going home. Normal. Except nothing about what happened next was normal. A BMW pulls out of that gas station and nearly clips a police cruiser. Not a random car. A police cruiser. Now, you'd think if you had warrants, if you had a suspended license, if you had drugs in the car and a gun on your hip, you'd maybe, just maybe, drive a little more carefully around law enforcement. But that's not what happened. Because the driver of that BMW was Clifford King Harris III, the son of T.I., the so-called prince of Atlanta's trap music dynasty. And he drove that car like the rules didn't apply to him. Because in his world, growing up in that household, with those parents, they never did. The officer turned on his lights, swung the cruiser around, initiated a traffic stop. And what he found when he approached that vehicle would set off a chain of events that the hip-hop world is still reeling from. First thing the officer noticed, the smell. Marijuana. Thick enough to hit him before he even got to the window. Then he noticed the gun. Right there on King's hip. A firearm. In plain view. On a 19-year-old who was about to have the worst night of his young life. The officer asked him to put his hands on the steering wheel. Ran his information. And that's when everything fell apart. King Harris had a warrant. From Pickens County. Failure to appear in court. Not for jaywalking. Not for some minor parking ticket. For speeding. Driving on a suspended license. And driving under the influence of drugs. Charges from August 2022. 2 full years earlier. He just never showed up. Never answered for it. Like it didn't matter. Like the law was something that happened to other people. People who weren't born Harris. The officer removed the firearm. Handcuffed King. Placed him in the back of the patrol car. 2 small baggies of marijuana were found in the vehicle. King had 2 other people in the car with him. One of them got cited for possession, but walked free. King went to DeKalb County Jail, then got transferred to Pickens County because of that outstanding warrant he'd been running from for 2 years. And just like that, the mugshot hit the internet. The memes started flying. Social media compared him to Ice Spice, to Sesame Street characters, to Pepe the Frog. The jokes were relentless, brutal, and viral. But here's the thing about all those jokes, all those memes, all that laughter. It was covering up something much darker, something much more serious, something that 50 Cent had been trying to tell people for years while everybody laughed him off as just another internet troll. But we'll get to that. Because first, you need to understand who King Harris really is. Not the version T.I. sells on Instagram. Not the version Tiny defends on live streams. The real version. The one the cameras caught when the family wasn't controlling the narrative. Clifford Joseph Harris III was born August 25, 2004, in Atlanta, Georgia. His father, T.I., was one of the most successful rappers of his generation. Pioneered trap music alongside Jeezy and Gucci Mane. Turned Atlanta into the center of the hip-hop universe. His mother, Tamika Tiny Cottle, was a member of the multi-platinum R&B group Xscape. From the moment this child took his first breath, he was wrapped in a golden blanket of privilege that most people can't even imagine. multiple mansions, private schools, the best of everything. A reality TV show that broadcast the family's perfect life to millions of viewers. Celebrity connections that would make most adults dizzy. King Harris had access to every single resource, every safety net, every opportunity that exists in America. He graduated from Dutchtown High School in Hampton, Georgia, with honors. His father celebrated it on Instagram with genuine surprise and pride. With honors. Remember that. Because what came next makes that achievement feel like ancient history. And here's where the cracks in the facade start showing. Because less than 3 months after that graduation photo was posted, King Harris was in a Waffle House in Atlanta, on Instagram Live, screaming at minimum wage workers because somebody put pickles on his food. Now, I want you to sit with that for a second. This is a 17-year-old kid whose family is worth tens of millions of dollars, standing in a Waffle House at 2 in the morning, broadcasting to the world, waving cash in the faces of people who are working the graveyard shift for barely enough money to cover rent, cursing them out, threatening them, jumping on the counter, talking about pistol whipping employees, over pickles, not a life or death situation, not a disrespect to his family, pickles, on a sandwich, at a Waffle House. The internet lost its mind, and rightfully so. Social media users slammed King, called his behavior out of line and privileged, and then they did what everybody does when a celebrity's kid acts up. They turned the finger to the parents. T.I. need to come get his son. His parents have failed miserably. I know his parents raised him better than that. But did they? Did they really raise him better? Because when T.I. responded, and this is where it gets really interesting, his defense of his son actually exposed the exact problem he was trying to cover up. T.I. went on Instagram Live, said he'd talked to King, said he was perplexed by his necessity to go back and forth with a short order cook. And then he said it, the line that told you everything you needed to know about the Harris household. He said, I didn't understand why he felt he needed to stop what he was doing to engage someone who's at another level of life. Another level of life. Let that marinate. T.I. wasn't addressing the disrespect. He wasn't correcting the entitlement. He wasn't saying his son was wrong for threatening violence against people just doing their jobs. He was saying his son was wrong for bothering with people who were beneath him. The message wasn't treat people with respect. The message was those people aren't worth your time. And people caught it. The backlash doubled. Because in trying to defend his son, T.I. had accidentally revealed the operating system of the Harris family. There is us, and there is everyone else. And everyone else doesn't matter. Now, here's where 50 Cent enters the story. And I need you to understand something about Curtis Jackson that most people miss because they're too busy laughing at his memes. 50 Cent is many things. Petty? Absolutely. Ruthless? Without question. But the thing people forget, the thing that makes him different from almost every other figure in hip-hop, is that 50 Cent is almost always right. Not sometimes right. Not occasionally correct. The man has a track record of calling things out years before the mainstream catches up. He called out Diddy before the world knew what Diddy was really doing behind closed doors. He called out Ja Rule when everybody was riding with Murder Incorporated. He called out Floyd Mayweather's business practices. He called out the music industry's exploitation of artists. And in every single case, years later, the truth came out and proved 50 right. Every single time. So when 50 Cent looked at the Harris family and started poking at the cracks, it wasn't random trolling. It wasn't petty beef for no reason. It was recognition. The same recognition that made him the most dangerous truth teller in hip-hop history. He saw what was happening with King Harris. He saw the entitlement, the recklessness, the parents making excuses. And he knew exactly where it was headed because he'd watched that movie before in his own life on the streets of Southside Jamaica, Queens. But the beef between 50 and T.I., that goes back almost 20 years. And understanding that history is critical to understanding why everything that's happening now was always going to happen. It started in 2007. 50 Cent didn't believe any singular rapper should be calling themselves king of anything. T.I. had branded himself as the king of the South. 50 didn't see it, wasn't impressed, and he let that be known publicly. Then T.I. caught federal gun charges later that year, and 50, being 50, questioned how T.I. received such a lenient sentence. Out loud. On record. How did this man get caught buying machine guns and silencers from ATF agents and walk away with a year and a day? That's a fair question, by the way. One that a lot of people in hip-hop whispered about, but never had the guts to say publicly. 50 said it because 50 doesn't whisper. Never has. That's what makes him dangerous. And that's what makes him essential. The tension simmered. They squashed it with a phone call in December 2011. T.I. went on record saying it was resolved. And for almost a decade, there was an uneasy peace. No collaboration, no friendship, but no active hostility. Just two giants occupying different corners of the hip-hop ring, watching each other. Then came 2020, the pandemic. Versus was the biggest thing in music. Instagram live battles between legendary artists. And T.I., feeling himself, challenged 50 Cent to step into the ring. He did it publicly on 50's birthday, no less, mixing a happy birthday message with a challenge that was really a provocation dressed in a party hat. 50 said no, publicly, repeatedly, made it clear he didn't see T.I. as a worthy opponent. And honestly, he was probably right. 50 Cent's catalog and cultural impact tower over T.I.'s in ways that are uncomfortable, but mathematically undeniable. Indie Club alone has more cultural footprint than T.I.'s entire discography. That's not hate, that's just math. But T.I. couldn't let it go. He kept pushing. For months. Through 2020 and into 2021. Every interview, every podcast, every opportunity, he'd bring up Versus and 50 Cent. It was becoming embarrassing. Like watching someone ask the same person to prom after getting rejected 12 times. And 50 just kept laughing. Because that's what 50 does. He lets people self-destruct while he watches from a distance, sipping his Lu Chemin du Roy champagne. And then came the explosion. February 2026. And this is where the story goes nuclear. According to T.I., who appeared on the $1 Million Worth of Game podcast, he and 50 had privately agreed to do a Versus battle. They had a plan. T.I. would announce it. 50 would confirm. Simple, coordinated, professional. But when T.I. made the announcement, 50 played dumb, acted like he had no idea what T.I. was talking about, left him hanging in front of the entire internet, and that was the match that lit the dynamite. Now, was 50 being petty? Absolutely. Was it diabolical? 100%. But was it also strategic genius? Let me explain. See, 50 Cent understood something fundamental about T.I. that T.I. himself doesn't understand. T.I. is his own worst enemy. All you have to do is create the conditions, turn up the temperature, and T.I. will self-destruct every single time. He can't help himself. His ego won't let him walk away. His pride won't let him be quiet. And his temper won't let him think straight. So 50 created those conditions. And then he sat back and watched the fireworks. T.I. went absolutely ballistic. First came the social media rants, then the interviews, then the diss tracks. War. The right one. Lessons. Track after track after track. T.I. was rapping like his life depended on it, like he needed to prove something to the world, to 50, and maybe most importantly, to himself. But here's where it gets dark. Here's where the Harris family dysfunction, the same dysfunction that created King's entitlement, came roaring into public view. 50 Cent started targeting the family, not just T.I., but everyone around him. He posted unflattering photos of Tiny. He compared King Harris to the Pepe the Frog meme. He dug up old Crime Stoppers footage from 2010 where T.I. appeared in what many interpreted as a cooperation ad with law enforcement. He labeled T.I. King Rat. And every single post was calculated, surgical, designed to hit where it hurt the most. Now, a mature family, a family with good leadership, a family where the parents had actually done their job, that family would have closed ranks, stayed quiet, let the lawyers handle it, let the music speak. That's what winners do. But the Harris family isn't built like that. And the next thing that happened proved everything 50 Cent had been saying about them for years. King Harris, the same kid who couldn't keep it together at a Waffle House, the same kid with the warrants, the suspended license, the DUI, the gun charges. King Harris decided he was going to jump into a rap beef between two of the most dangerous men in hip-hop history. At 20 years old, with a criminal record, and a newborn baby at home, King released a diss track aimed at 50 Cent. And in that diss track, he went after 50's deceased mother, his dead mother, the woman who was murdered when 50 Cent was 8 years old, the woman whose death shaped everything Curtis Jackson ever became. King Harris looked at that tragedy, the pain, the generational trauma, and decided it was ammunition for a rap beef. Let me say that again, so it lands properly. A 20-year-old kid with zero accomplishments, zero credibility, and zero self-awareness attacked a man's dead mother in a diss track, while he himself had an infant son at home, while he himself was out on bond, while he himself was facing multiple legal issues across multiple Georgia counties. And T.I.'s other son, Domani, did the same thing. Released his own diss track, also going after 50's late mother. Two brothers, both going after a deceased woman, thinking they were defending their family's honor, not realizing they were doing exactly what 50 wanted them to do. Because here's what 50 Cent understood that the entire Harris family failed to grasp. 50 wasn't trying to win a rap beef. He was exposing a pattern. He was showing the world, in real time, exactly what happens when parents raise children without accountability, without boundaries, without consequences. The same entitlement that made King scream at Waffle House workers was the same entitlement that made him think he could go toe-to-toe with 50 Cent. The same recklessness that put him in the back of a patrol car in Dawoodi was the same recklessness that made him mock a dead woman on a record. That it's all the same energy. It's all the same disease. And 50 Cent diagnosed it before anyone else. T.I. himself admitted it. In an interview on the Ebro Laura Rosenberg show in March 2026, T.I. was asked about his sons jumping into the beef. And his answer was devastating. Not because of what he said, but because of what it revealed about his own failures as a parent. No, I don't enjoy it, T.I. said. Particularly when King decided to go scorched earth. I spent so much time trying to get this little off the ledge. Now he has justifiable means to undo all of the teaching that I've been teaching. Read that again. Now he has justifiable means to undo all of the teaching. T.I. is literally admitting that the beef with 50 gave King an excuse to throw away every lesson his father tried to teach him. And instead of shutting it down immediately, instead of pulling his son aside and saying, "You are not built for this, stand down," T.I. let it happen. Because his ego, his pride, his need to be seen as the king wouldn't let him appear weak in front of his own children. And then he said something else that was even more telling. When asked what moment he felt things had gone too far, T.I. pointed to the video of King wearing a t-shirt with an image of 50 Cent's deceased mother on it. I said that's enough when I seen that t-shirt. I'm big on treating people the way I want to be treated. Now hold on. Wait. Full stop. You said that's enough when you saw the t-shirt? Meaning it was already out there. Meaning it was already filmed. Meaning it was already on the internet. Your 20-year-old son with a criminal record and a baby was wearing a shirt mocking a murdered woman and you didn't know about it until it was public? Where was the parenting? Where was the leadership? Where was the supposed wisdom of a man who has been to federal prison and claims he knows exactly how it's going to turn out? This is the moment, right here, where the Harris family narrative collapses completely. Because T.I. has been telling the world for years that he warned King, that he disciplined King, that he did everything a parent could do. But the evidence says otherwise. The evidence says this is a family where the father is too busy managing his own legacy to actually parent his children, and the mother is too busy defending them to hold them accountable. And 50 Cent. 50 saw all of this. He saw it before the Waffle House incident. He saw it before the arrests. He saw it before the diss tracks. Because 50 Cent didn't just grow up on the streets. 50 Cent survived the streets. He took 9 bullets and lived. He built a $100 million empire from nothing. He navigated federal investigations, industry blackballing, and every enemy you can name, and came out on the other side standing. And he did it without a famous father, without a reality TV show, without a safety net. When 50 Cent looks at King Harris, he doesn't see a tough kid from Atlanta. He sees a costume, a Halloween outfit of street credibility worn by a child who has never actually been hungry, never actually been in danger, never actually had to survive anything more threatening than a Waffle House running out of his preferred condiments. And when 50 looks at T.I., he sees something even worse. He sees a man who had the chance to break the cycle, who had the resources and the experience to raise children differently, and who failed. Not because he didn't know better, but because knowing better wasn't enough to overcome his own ego. Think about it. T.I. grew up on the streets of Bankhead, Atlanta. He sold drugs because he had to. He carried guns because his life depended on it. He went to federal prison and did real time in real facilities. He came out, built an empire, married a pop star, got a reality show, became a millionaire many times over. He literally lived the American dream. And then he raised a son who has every advantage he never had. And that son is speedrunning the exact same path to prison that T.I. barely escaped. How does that happen? How does a man who knows what prison smells like, who knows what it feels like to count days on a cell wall, who knows the exact cost of the streets, how does that man raise a child who is charging toward those same streets like it's a race he's trying to win? The answer is uncomfortable, but it's simple. T.I. didn't just raise King Harris. He created the environment that produced him. The entitlement, the another level of life mentality, the reality TV cameras that made dysfunction look normal, the public excuses that taught King his behavior would always be explained away, the wealth that insulated him from consequences, all of it. T.I. built the machine, and King is the product rolling off the assembly line. Meanwhile, King's siblings tell a different story entirely. Zanique Pullins has carved out her own career in music and entertainment with minimal controversy. Messiah Harris has stayed largely out of the headlines. Damani, despite the diss track incident, has generally pursued his music without the constant legal drama. Deja Harris has been open about her mental health journey and has navigated the spotlight with relative maturity. So it's not the family name that's the problem. It's not the fame. It's not the money. It's something specific to King. Something that T.I. recognized because he recognized it in himself. That energy. That defiant, self-destructive, rules don't apply to me energy that T.I. has spent his entire adult life trying to outrun. If he keep that up, his ass going to prison. Ain't no way around it. Ain't nothing I'ma be able to do about it. Can't nobody stop him but him. Because I know that energy. I was that energy. I know exactly how it's going to turn out. Those are T.I.'s exact words. Spoken publicly. Recorded forever. And what makes them so devastating isn't the prediction. It's the resignation. T.I. isn't saying he's going to fight for his son. He's saying he's given up. He's saying the streets are going to take his boy and there's nothing he can do about it. He's waving a white flag while his son marches toward a cliff. And Tiny? Tiny's out here telling the world. King be standing on business all the time. He's a good guy, though. One thing about King, he don't start no stuff. He don't run from no stuff. But he don't start no stuff. He don't start no stuff? The Waffle House says different. The multiple arrest records say different. The gun on his hip during a traffic stop says different. The social media beefs say different. Every single headline attached to King Harris's name says different. But that's the Harris family playbook. Deny, deflect, defend, never, ever hold anyone accountable. And the internet sees through it every single time. One person wrote, "Stop making excuses for his bad behavior." A fan of their VH1 show commented, "You've been condoning his bad behavior since he was a child. Did you forget you had a TV show and we seen it with our own eyes?" Another said, "And that's why he is the way he is." The public has more clarity about what's wrong with King Harris than his own parents do. Think about how wild that is. Complete strangers on the internet can diagnose the problem faster than two people who have lived with this child for 20 years. Now let's talk about what happened next. Because the October 2024 arrest wasn't the end of King's legal troubles. It was just the latest chapter in an escalating pattern that shows no signs of slowing down. After the Dawood arrest, King was booked into DeKalb County Jail and then transferred to Pickens County on the outstanding warrant. He bonded out relatively quickly. And what did he do when he got out? He went straight to Instagram, posted a video. "I'm a free man. I'm not locked up. I'm straight. I was. But I'm back. I'm straight. Not I'm going to change. Not I learned something. Not I'm going to do better for my son. Just, I am straight." Business as usual. Another arrest. Another mugshot. Another bond. Another Instagram post. The cycle continues. And the charges? Driving on a suspended license. Obstruction. Misdemeanor theft. Failure to appear. These are serious charges. But here's where the media narrative gets important and where the truth gets twisted. Reports started flooding social media claiming King was facing a life sentence. Some said 5 years. Some said decades. The numbers kept growing with every repost, every share, every clickbait thumbnail. The reality? Under Georgia law, the charges King has faced so far are not the type that carry a life sentence. Similar cases often resolve with fines or probation. Some of the content circulating online even confused King's situation with the Young Thug YSL RICO case, where entirely different sentencing numbers were being discussed. But here's the thing that nobody wants to say out loud because it doesn't generate clicks. The danger King faces isn't one catastrophic sentence. It's accumulation. It's the slow grinding machinery of the Georgia legal system that doesn't punish you with one massive blow but instead stacks charges, stacks violations, stacks failures to appear until one day you walk into a courtroom for what you think is a routine hearing and a judge decides they've had enough. Georgia's prisons like Phillips State hold thousands. Violence reports remain steady. The system is patient in ways that young men like King Harris are not. And every single time he drives without a license, every time he misses a court date, every time he carries what he shouldn't be carrying in a vehicle that smells like what it shouldn't smell like, he's adding another brick to a wall that will eventually close him in. And now King Harris is a father himself. His son, King Harris Jr., was born in November 2024 to his girlfriend, Janija Nananeps. That baby boy now has a father who at 20 years old has already been arrested multiple times, who has already made headlines for threatening workers at restaurants, clashing with his own parents on live streams, driving under the influence, carrying firearms during traffic stops, and inserting himself into rap beefs he has no business being in. When T.I. took his grandson to Japan on a family vacation, social media lit up. People saw a different king, a softer king, a young father being tender with his baby boy, showing a side that the mugshots and viral videos never capture. And for a moment, just a brief moment, there was hope that maybe fatherhood had changed something. Maybe the responsibility of another life depending on him had finally broken through the wall of entitlement and recklessness. But then the 50 Cent beef happened. The diss tracks dropped. The dead mother t-shirts appeared. And whatever hope fatherhood had sparked was smothered under the weight of the same old energy that has been driving King Harris toward a destination that everybody can see except him. And that brings us back to 50 Cent. Back to the deleted posts. Back to the question that started this entire investigation. When 50 Cent deleted those posts, the ones targeting T.I. and the Harris family, when he wiped his page clean of every meme, every clown emoji, every shot fired in the digital war, it wasn't surrender. It was evolution. 50 had already won. Not the rap beef, because a rap beef requires two equally matched opponents, and this was never that. 50 won the larger game. The one he was always playing. Because what happened after those posts disappeared? T.I.'s single Let 'Em Know hit #1 at Urban Radio. His retirement album, Kill the King, started charting. Suddenly, T.I. was relevant again for the first time in years. And the narrative shifted. People started saying T.I. won the beef. That 50 backed down. That the Harris family had prevailed. But think about that for a second. Really think about it. T.I. needed a beef with 50 Cent to become relevant again. Without 50, without the controversy, without the memes and the diss tracks and the family drama, T.I.'s music was going nowhere. His retirement album was going to come and go without anyone noticing. 50 Cent, in his own diabolical way, gave T.I. exactly what T.I. needed. A story, a villain, a reason for people to pay attention. And 50 is executive producing a Netflix documentary about Diddy that is literally reshaping how Hollywood operates. He's running a television empire with the Power franchise. His net worth continues to climb. His cultural influence is at an all-time high. He doesn't need a beef with T.I. to sell anything. He never did. So who really won? The man who needs controversy to sell records? Or the man who generates controversy as a side project while building empires? 50 Cent saw through the Harris family when nobody else did. He saw the entitlement. He saw the enabling. He saw the pattern of a family that performs success on camera while dysfunction festers behind the scenes. And he didn't just call it out. He proved it by doing nothing more than turning up the temperature and watching the Harris family show the world exactly who they are. T.I. said it himself in that Ebro interview. He said he was proud that his sons defended their mother. But in the same breath, he admitted he spent years trying to keep King off the ledge. Proud and terrified in the same sentence. That's not parenting. That's hostage negotiation. That's a man who has lost control of his own household and is trying to dress it up as family loyalty. And the most painful part is that T.I. knows. He knows. He said it himself. I know that energy. I was that energy. I know exactly how it's going to turn out. He knows. And he's watching it happen anyway. Because the same stubborn pride that makes him refuse to back down from 50 Cent is the same stubborn pride that prevents him from doing what actually needs to be done with his son. Which is not defending him. Not making excuses. not going on Instagram Live to explain why King doesn't need to engage with someone at another level of life, but actually, genuinely, completely holding him accountable. But accountability doesn't play well on reality TV. It doesn't generate views. It doesn't fit the King of the South brand. And so the circus continues. The arrests continue. The mugshots continue. The Instagram live excuses continue. And somewhere in Atlanta, a baby boy named King Harris Jr. is growing up watching all of it, learning all of it, absorbing the same energy that his father absorbed, that his grandfather lived, that the streets of Atlanta have been producing and consuming for generations. That's the cycle. That's the real story. Not the arrests. Not the memes. Not the rap beef. The cycle. And 50 Cent is the only person in this entire saga who has been willing to say out loud on the record with his whole chest that this cycle exists, that it's destroying this family, and that the people responsible for stopping it are too busy performing to actually do anything about it. Is 50 petty? Absolutely. Is he ruthless? Without question. Did he enjoy watching the Harris family implode in public? Probably more than he should have. But being petty and being right are not mutually exclusive. And in this case, 50 Cent was both. He was the villain the Harris family wanted, but he was the truth they needed. The confirmed reality as of right now is this. King Harris has not received a life sentence. The sensationalized reports of decades in prison were exaggerations, conflations with other cases, and in some instances, outright fabrications designed to generate clicks. King has faced misdemeanor and mid-level charges. He has bonded out of jail. He is alive, free, and raising his son. But alive and free is a low bar for someone who was born with every advantage in the world. Alive and free is what you celebrate when you've been to war, when you've survived the streets, when you've clawed your way up from nothing. For King Harris, alive and free should be the baseline, not the ceiling. And the fact that his family is celebrating bond hearings and Instagram Live, I'm straight, videos like their victories tells you everything you need to know about how far the bar has fallen. The real sentence King Harris is serving isn't one handed down by a judge. It's the sentence of his own choices. Every missed court date, every reckless drive on a suspended license, every confrontation filmed and broadcast to millions, every diss track aimed at a man whose mother was murdered, every moment of entitlement that went unchecked, every excuse that was made on his behalf. It all accumulates. It all compounds. And unless something changes, unless the warnings from the legal system, from the internet, from his own father actually land, that informal sentence will eventually become an official one. And when that day comes, if it comes, 50 Cent won't say, "I told you so." He won't need to, because he already said it years ago, while everyone else was laughing at the memes and sharing the mugshots. 50 was reading the situation like a book he'd already finished. Because he had. He lived that book. He survived that book. And he came out the other side as one of the most successful entertainers and businessmen in the history of American culture. That's the difference between 50 Cent and the Harris family. 50 took the pain of his past and turned it into power. T.I. took the pain of his past and turned it into a brand. And when you build a family on branding instead of building, when the image matters more than the infrastructure, when the Instagram post is more important than the private conversation, this is what you get. This is always what you get. A 20-year-old father with warrants, a family in crisis, a public narrative built on sand, and one man sitting in his office somewhere in Connecticut who saw it all coming, who said it all out loud, who took every punch, every insult, every diss track about his dead mother, and still ended up on top. Not because he fought harder, but because he understood something the Harris family never will. You don't win by being the loudest in the room. You win by being the last one standing when the noise stops. And the noise? The noise is still going. King Harris is still making headlines. T.I. is still doing interviews. Tiny is still defending. The cycle is still cycling. But 50 Cent? 50 Cent has already moved on to the next play, the next empire, the next chapter, because that's what winners do. They don't get stuck in one battle. They win the war. And this war was never even close. But the question remains. The question that hangs over the Harris family like a storm cloud that refuses to break. The question that T.I. asked himself years ago and still hasn't found an answer to. The question that King Harris should be asking himself every single night when he looks at his baby son sleeping in his crib. Will he listen before the clock runs out? T.I. said he knows that energy. He was that energy. He knows exactly how it turns out. The question is whether his son will prove him right or finally prove him wrong. The clock is ticking, and Atlanta is watching. And 50 Cent? 50 Cent is watching too. He always is, because that's what he does. He watches, he waits, and he's never, not once, been wrong about how the story ends. Never, not once. And that should terrify the Harris family more than any judge, any sentence, any prison cell ever could. Because the most dangerous person in any room isn't the one making threats. It's the one who already knows what's going to happen next. And 50 Cent always knows. Always.